welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for our Game Week 11 tier list video. If you enjoy this one, make sure you drop a like and do subscribe if you are new around here. Let's go through this tier list. Alright guys, so as always, we've got the 30 most popular transfers in at time of recording and we're going to put them on this tier list. Don't forget guys, if there is a player we don't mention today, let me know in the comments and we'll put them in a virtual tier list in the comments section. So let's start off with the 30th most transferred in a player right now for Game Week 11, and that is going to be Evan Ferguson, who I think is probably going to be somewhere between a good transfer and optional, but I am going to drop him in optional because I don't think he's nailed on. Even when we think Ferguson is going to be nailed on and might get a run of games, it never seems to happen, and I do think João Pedro is definitely competing for the same spot in this Brighton team. A lot of fixtures coming up, obviously, with their European games as well, and the fixtures, well, I thought the fixtures were good previously, but now when I look at the likes of, Everton away, Nottingham Forest away, I actually don't think these are such great fixtures. These are two defences that do know how to defend. Nottingham Forest slipping a little bit at the moment, but certainly Everton are on an upward trajectory, so I don't actually know if this is such an amazing fixture after all. So, I don't know, do we actually need Brighton players? Previously, I thought yes, but now I'm beginning to change my mind a little bit on that one. Next up, Kyle Walker. I'm going to slap him straight in optional because obviously he is a fairly nailed-on defender playing for the best defence in the Premier League, but it's kind of like a little bit expensive. You're not going to get any attacking returns from him realistically. Bonus points, you might get them occasionally in those low-scoring games, but typically he's just like an okay player to have in your team. He's fine. It's not very exciting. You're going to get clean sheets when City have the better fixtures. They do have some tough fixtures coming up, but you always back City to have a chance of a clean sheet against pretty much anyone. So, yeah, let's put him in optional. He's fine, I guess. Next up, Mark Gahey. Good transfer. Yeah, I like this one. One of the few defences that has some really nice fixtures coming up starting from Game Week 11 is going to be Crystal Palace, and obviously they've got a couple of bad fixtures out the way now, and I think they can push on and start getting some clean sheets under their belts, just like they did slightly earlier on in the season. So if you want a nice cheeky 6-point merchant for the next few fixtures, hey, why not a Crystal Palace defender or a goalkeeper, because Johnston is also going to go in good transfer. He's actually probably my preferred goalkeeper right now. If I had to make a goalkeeper transfer, I think Johnston would be the guy I'd go for. Good solid defence, good fixtures, decent amount of save points, always a chance of bonus points as well, because Crystal Palace don't score too many goals, so it's often the defenders that get the bonus points as well. So yeah, overall, just a decent solid goalkeeper for 4.5 million. Obviously the likes of Areola and Turner, they're getting a little bit more expensive as well, so Johnston is getting closer and closer to their prices because the other guys are increasing in price. So I think there's less need to go for an Areola now when you can get Johnston for 0.2 more. Definitely would be up there in terms of goalkeeper picks. Now, next player I'm going to put in is Palmer, which is a really interesting one because I'm going to put him in optional, first of all. The reason is, I definitely appreciate that he's a decent pick in general. He looks very good at the moment. I am quite excited by this player, and he's definitely a player firmly on my watch list. But what's really putting me off is that after this Spurs game, we have got back-to-back City and Newcastle, which are two horrible fixtures. They really are terrible fixtures for any kind of attacker. So maybe if we can get the next 3 game weeks out of the way, maybe that's going to be a time to buy Palmer after that. But you're still going to get penalties from him, I guess. So you could get lucky, and he's a nice cheap price at 5 million. So there are certain things that I do like about Palmer. So he's optional. I don't think, we'd put him any higher than that. If you need a really cheap player, he's probably like one of the players to go for, I guess. So optional. Next up, Jared Bowen. Not the greatest fixture up next against Brentford, but after that, we've got some decent fixtures for him. He seems to be in good form. Unlucky not to get anything from last game. He looked pretty good. Got a few good chances to score. So I think he still needs to go in good transfer at least. So we're going to put him there. Not sure he's quite a great transfer ahead of this fixture, but in general, he's definitely a good player to have in your team. Next up, we're going to do a couple of Arsenal defenders, and we're going to slap them both in optional. Another strong defence, but they have got Newcastle next, so it's probably not the best time to buy Arsenal defenders, but they are good players to have in your squad in general. So we're going to put Ben White here. He's getting a little bit expensive, but still, I guess some people can afford to go for him, particularly if you are missing players like Trippier or someone like that, or maybe you only have one of Salah and Haaland. You might have a little bit of money. Maybe you can go for Ben White. We're going to put Saliba in a similar situation there. 2 defenders for Arsenal that are nailed on. They don't have a great fixture this week, but after that, it's starts to look much better. But if I'm totally honest, against Newcastle, it could be a cagey affair. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the two teams managed to keep a clean sheet, or maybe even it's a 0-0. I definitely can see that happening. Don't expect this to be a big, open, high-scoring game, really. So, therefore, maybe an Arsenal defender is not, like, the worst player to bring in right now. I think long-term they're going to be very nice. I just don't know if I would be that keen to bring him in this exact moment. Next up, Callum Wilson, who is a player, I know I just said about this being a low-scoring game, but Wilson, whenever he is kind of nailed on, so Isak is obviously injured at the moment, whenever Wilson is nailed on as the central striker, I always trust him. Like, no matter who he plays against, I always trust him. It's always minutes that are the problem with Wilson for me, so I'm going to put him in good transfer. Whether he's a long-term pick or not is another question, and there's probably a couple of other forwards that I do prefer to him, but in general, he's fine. Like, if you want to take a little bit of a risk, go bold and maybe hold him through this Arsenal fixture and look for some of the future fixtures, then actually, yeah, he could definitely do some damage against anyone. He's going to be on penalties as well. Definitely Wilson, when fit, is a player you have to at least consider. So I'm going to put him in good transfer. And I'm also going to put Matty Cash in good transfer. I'm not going to put him any higher than that. I think there are some good fixtures coming up. We've got Nottingham Forest next, a team that doesn't really score too many goals. So maybe Aston Villa can finally start keeping a clean sheet without Cash having to be substituted before the goal gets conceded, because we do want to play Cash for 90 minutes and get the clean sheet. That would be the ideal situation. So yeah, after the next 4 games though, the fixtures do look a little bit rougher. We've got Spurs coming up as well. So there are going to be some tricky fixtures at a certain point, but if you have someone to rotate with Cash, he's going to be absolutely fine to have. If you don't really have any players rotating from your bench at the moment, then maybe he's not really a progressive kind of defender you'd go for if you're looking for the future of your team, because we don't really like Aston Villa's defence in general. And in those difficult fixtures, you can really see them conceding a couple of goals, and we're going to get Cash 1-pointers, 0-pointers, maybe the odd 2-pointer as well if you're lucky. So yeah, it depends. If you can rotate Cash, good. If you can't, maybe I wouldn't go for him, but I'm going to put him in good transfer anyway. Next up, Ethan Pinnock, and he is one of our knee-jerks of the week. There are a couple of them in this video that we need to place in the low categories, but yeah, Pinnock obviously is the example of a defender this week that scored a goal, and therefore everyone is buying him. We see this near enough every week, maybe every other week. A defender will get a goal, maybe a clean sheet as well, get the bonus points, and they're very cheap, 4.5 million, something like that, and everyone will rush to buy them because they just saw, hey, this player scored a bunch of points last week and he's pretty cheap, maybe I should just bring him in and he'll score that every week. Never works out like that at all. And Brentford, I don't think, are completely unbeatable defensively. They've got really tough fixtures over the next 3. So it's probably not the best time to bring in a Brentford defender, to be honest. Particularly as I don't expect Pinnock to score a goal every week. It's just not going to happen. So he's going to go in the avoid category, not the defender I would be going for this week. We're going to have another player in the avoid category, and it's going to be Szoboszlai. And yeah, a lot of Liverpool fans in particular really love this player. Completely understand why. Obviously a fantastic football player, but against Luton Town, is he the right player that we need to be taking to target this fixture? For me, probably not. He's only got really a couple of goal contributions so far this season. He's never been a big hitting player. That's not his role in the team. He's a midfielder. He's going to get the occasional assist, but not really much more than that. So is he a player that you want to have long term in your team? Definitely not. Is he like an okay punt against Luton? Yeah, all right, fine. Like, maybe he could be an interesting one-week punt, but definitely not a player I'd want to use long-term. And I think it could be a waste of transfer to go for him over some of the other midfield options that are available to us right now, particularly some players that are a little bit cheaper as well. So would not really be looking to go for Szoboszlai. Appreciate he's a good player, but really for FPL, not really what I'm looking for. All right, next up, here's a player I've been looking forward to placing. Well, what do we have here? It's the Erling Haaland sellers coming back, crawling back. They want him back in their team, and you know what? I don't blame them. I don't blame them after that result against Manchester United. Erling Haaland is back. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks, but look, this is not the time to rub anything in. Erling Haaland sellers, they took a risk. You know, they went without you know, this player, there was always going to be a chance. I think we all appreciate, no matter whether you kept him or sold him, we all appreciate that there's always going to be these occasions where Haaland just goes crazy and scores a bunch of FPL points. Like, he is the best striker in the league. He's the best FPL asset in the league, or at least I think most of us would say that. So there was always a chance that this was going to happen, and now it has happened. I think maybe people are more understanding to the fact that this player can go crazy at any moment, and he will go crazy in some of those more favourable fixtures, and he is the star of this Manchester City team, which is a phenomenal football team. Next up, we have Bournemouth. They have the second worst defensive record statistically in the whole Premier League. Only Sheffield United are worse than them. So when we look at Erling Haaland playing at home against a defence this week, it's really difficult to bet against him. Like, for me, he is the captain option for the week. I would be terrified to go without him. Would I be taking a -8 to get him back into my team? I would consider it. I'll put it that way. If the other transfers also helped improve my team a little bit as well, I would definitely be considering it. For a -4, I think I would just do it. I would just rip the band-aid off, say, hey, the experiment without Haaland worked for a couple of game weeks. I'm not really convinced that it's going to continue to work, to be honest, when we have got him back in form. Good fixture this week. Even after that, the fixtures aren't amazing, don't get me wrong, but I back Haaland in any moment right now. So therefore, I think against Bournemouth, you have to bring him back in. I really do. Like, I've not changed my mind on this one. I don't intend on changing my mind on this one. I think Erling Haaland is an essential player in the team. I just can't get on board with the whole selling him thing, or, you know, leaving him out of your FPL team. I understand the reasons, don't get me wrong. They just don't convince me. But that's just my opinion on that one. If you still disagree and you still think that a no Haaland team is going to be something that works out, then fine, fair enough. I'm not here to argue, and you guys obviously should make your own decisions and back them, and trust yourselves and trust your own instincts. But just my opinion, I guess, is I guess I don't know why I feel bad about this. It's my YouTube channel. Of course, I should be giving my opinion on it. But yeah, that's my opinion. I think you should get Haaland back if you've sold him recently, but we'll leave that one. I'm sure that the chat, the comments are going to go crazy right now, but we'll see. Kaoru Mitoma up next. Again, like, I'm not totally convinced by these Brighton fixtures after all. The more I look at them, the more I think, actually, are they actually that good? Yeah, I don't know. He's definitely a good transfer. He's definitely a decent player to bring it in. Played a little bit too defensively in that last game for me, if I'm totally honest. But, look, he's the most nailed-on Brighton attacker. They're obviously a decent team that knows how to score goals. You have to say that Mitoma is at least a decent pick, so we're going to put him in the good transfer category. Not exactly sure where. Maybe like there, alongside Callum Wilson. Yeah. I think that's fine. He's a good transfer. He's pretty decent, but there may be better options right now. One better option is Saka in the long term, but for this week, again, we've got the situation where Arsenal are about to play Newcastle, so I'm going to put Saka in the optional category. Another one of those players for Arsenal that you could probably wait one more week before bringing him in. If you didn't bring him in last game week, then just maybe wait till game week 12 before bringing him in. I don't think he's essential to bring in this week against Newcastle, but after that, against Burnley, that might be a moment where you got to bring him in. But we'll move on to some Spurs defenders next, back to back. We've got Van der Ven. I guess, like, Spurs, like, they've got some tough-ish fixtures coming up. Not really sure I love them from a defensive point of view in general anyway. So I guess they're just optional players. If you want to go for a Spurs defender, you can. They don't thrill me, if I'm honest. I'm not expecting attacking returns from them very often. And I think clean sheets could be sporadic as well. Certainly, there are other teams that I think are more, well, other defenders that are more consistent with their clean sheets or better fixtures or better potential for attacking returns. So we're going to put both Van der Ven and Romero in the optional category. If that's the way you want to go, if you back the Spurs defense, fine, but I don't think there are anywhere near essential players to go for right now. If you're just using your free transfers, that is. And we do have a limited amount of free transfers. Are Spurs defenders really improving your team? I guess it depends who you're selling. Kind of up to you. Next up, right, Diaby. This is an interesting one. He is finally what we might call in form. He's finally the good positions that he's finding himself in, finally starting to pay off with a couple of goal contributions the last game against Luton. But we have to remember it was only against Luton. But that said, I do think that when we compare the likes of Mitoma and Diaby, the fixtures are similar in quality. So therefore, I think I have to put them around the same point, around the same area. So we're going to put Diaby and Mitoma together. I think they're both good picks in general. I don't think either of them are must buys, but both solid players to bring into your team at that 6.5 million-ish price bracket. Next up, Alvarez. Is he a player we want long term when we look at the other forwards? I don't know. If I had Alvarez right now, there would be no way I would be selling him. But would I be buying him? That is a slightly different question. So I think he has to go somewhere between good transfer and optional. He's definitely a player you keep if you have him. But if I'm looking for a new forward right now, Alvarez is probably, I don't know, like 3rd, 4th, 5th on my list, and you're going to see it by the end of this tier list. Alvarez is not going to be the top forward in my preferred buys this week. So therefore, for that reason, I think he has to go in optional. He could be a nice one-week punt. Is he a player I want to own long-term? Not necessarily. There's just other forwards I prefer right now. But still, decent pick, solid pick, fine if you want to have him. You could even slip him into good transfer technically. He'd be somewhere around that area. Not like Salah, who to me is... He's got to be pretty much a must-buy at this point, hasn't he? Consistent FPL returns. Maybe a little bit fortunate with the goal against Nottingham Forest. I mean, that was a big Turner mistake for Salah to capitalise on the counter-attack. But we've got Luton up next, and this is the point with Salah. First of all, he's a very good creative player. Very good creative player. But the problem is, when you're looking for goals, what we really need is a counter-attack goal or a penalty goal. The way you're going to get penalty goals is pretty much just luck. It will happen occasionally. Sometimes it'll happen more often than not. And with counter-attacks, what we need is Liverpool to get a goal or two ahead. And that is when Salah comes into his element, counter-attacks, and gets goals to finish off teams. We've seen it time and time again. We saw it again against Nottingham Forest. So what I'm thinking with this fixture against Luton is we all expect Liverpool to go ahead. Do I expect Salah to be the first player to score a goal in the game? Well, unless it's a penalty, not really. But if the likes of, Darwin Nunez perhaps, or, Cody Gakpo if he's playing, or Jota if he's playing, Diaz if he's playing, if they can get the opening goal, the other teammates can get a couple of goals to open up the score. By that point, Liverpool go into, chaos mode, and Salah is going to finish off that team very, very nicely. So, therefore, Salah, against certain teams, I don't really trust him, but in certain scenarios, I do. And this is one of them. So, if Liverpool can go up early in this game, get a couple of goals in the first half, Salah is going to come into his element. He really is. And at that point, we're going to see him get similar scores as we've seen recently. You can always trust him to get an attacking return via penalty, or when Liverpool are already up, or just like assists, because he is very creative as well, and he was unlucky not to get an assist perhaps in last game week as well. So he's going to be a must-buy for me. Definitely a super important player to have in your team, and Liverpool have decent fixtures going forward as well. So Salah, one of those players you can just have in your team and keep him forever. Next up, Darwin Nunez. We did mention him just now. I'm going to throw him in great transfer. I actually think he is a more of an attacking threat for Liverpool right now than Salah is. I truly believe that. I think Darwin has turned a corner. I think he's a super, super good player this week. And I'm not just saying that after last game week. I'm really not. I've been raving about Darwin for some time. The concern with Darwin has always been rotation. And if you can get him when he's playing, then amazing. I do think he is Liverpool's first choice striker. This next game week, he's going to hopefully be a little bit rested. He's not just come back from international duty or whatever, which always seems to screw over Darwin, don't get me wrong. That will happen in a couple of weeks, more than likely, and Darwin long-term may cause some issues, but against Luton, I think this is the kind of fixture that suits Darwin. If I'm kind of guessing who is going to be scoring the first goals against Luton, if Salah's getting the final goals to finish off the team, who's getting the first goals? To me, it's Darwin. So we're going to put him there. Luton, very susceptible to conceding goals from those central areas, and that's exactly the positions where Darwin occupies. So a great transfer. Yeah, like him. Yeah, a really good pick. Like, if you're picking between Alvarez and Darwin right now, I'd prefer to go for Darwin, despite the fact that both of them have very, very good fixtures. And maybe Alvarez has scored more points this season, but looking forward, Darwin. Right, next up, Maddison. Super interesting one, because like the fixtures aren't great. We've got Chelsea up next. Which is like, have we got Chelsea up next? Actually, I'm not even convinced we do have Chelsea up next. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. I'm not totally convinced by this fixture, if I'm totally honest. It's a tough one in general, but we have just seen Brentford put the knife into Chelsea, so I don't know what's going to happen here. I think Maddison probably is somewhere around the good transfer or optional. it's just probably, if I didn't have him already, I'm not convinced I would be buying him. So maybe he's similar to Alvarez in that sense. So maybe we stick him alongside Alvarez. One of those players that if you have him already, great. But would you necessarily be buying them now? Not sure. I'd maybe rather save my transfer, hold what I've got, and the next game week we can move to players like Arsenal midfielders, for example. We can look to, Aston Villa and Newcastle and Brighton and maybe Brentford as well in the future game week. So yeah, it's a weird one. Maddison's a weird one. Don't buy, don't sell maybe, but also you could buy him if you really wanted to. Right, next up, Tsimikas. Great transfer. Luton up next. Clean sheet, very much on the cards. Tsimikas seems to have locked down that left-back position. Always a chance of an assist, particularly from the set pieces as well. So I'm happy to put him in. Great transfer. Great price for him. And one of the few defenders right now that actually excites me in FPL, because there's not too many. But we'll move on to Ollie Watkins. Again, I think he's going to be a great transfer. Decent player to have in general. We know he's been doing really well so far. Super unlucky to blank against Luton Town. 2 big chances in that game from that double chance, and had a really good opportunity to create an assist, but Zaniolo missed the chance. So he's still going to be one of the top forwards to get right now. I would put Darwin slightly ahead of him this game week, but it depends what you're looking for, really. Are you looking for a long-term hold? Are you looking for a nice short-term, high potential, high upside player like Darwin? Kind of up to you. So it depends what you're looking for, but yeah, Watkins is definitely up there. Next up, Hee-Chan. Is he a great transfer? I'm not sure I'd put him quite that high. The one concern is that Neto's creativity might damage him, but we've got some amazing fixtures coming up for Wolves, so therefore he has to be on the radar at least at that 5.5 million, nice cheap midfielder price point. So I'm going to put him in good transfer. Definitely my preferred of the super cheap midfielders to go for right now if you can get to him. Next up, Anderson. I think also a good transfer. We're going to put him alongside Gahey and Johnston. Obviously, he has a higher potential, more likely to get bonus points, more likely to get attacking returns as well, decent aerial threat, and amazing fixtures, as we know, for Crystal Palace, but he is getting a little bit pricey at 5 million. So definitely a decent transfer, and, again, when we're looking at defenders to go for right now, Tsimikas is definitely up there, and the Brighton defence in general, the Crystal Palace defence is up there. The Brighton defence is down there. They can't keep a clean sheet at all. All right, next up, Heung-min Son. He's just so good at the moment. He's in such good form, so much so that I don't care about the fixtures. We've got Chelsea up next. After that, couple of decent fixtures for them. I'm particularly looking forward to Son against Aston Villa. I think he could do some damage there. I really do. So we're going to put him in. Great transfer. I trust him against anyone. Would he be a priority over players like Darwin, Watkins and Tsimikas? Probably not, but definitely a player that should be on your radar if he's not in your team already. And we've got 3 more players to finish this off, and this is where things get a little bit controversial, because these are the 3 most popular transfers in at time of recording, and I'm not going to put them in as high as you probably want me to, but deal with it. First of all, Douglas Luiz, I think we need to throw him in optional. Like, if you want to go for him, fine. Like, 5.6 million, he's pretty cheap. He is going to get the occasional penalty, and he is on set pieces, so he may get the occasional set piece goal contribution as well there. But open play is just not the one. Even in the great fixtures, he's just not the one on the football field. So it's just not, like, his open play position is just not what we like for FPL. But if you like a set piece merchant, and there's nothing wrong with liking a set piece merchant, then I guess he's an option for you. So that's why he goes in the optional category. No higher despite his popularity. There are just plenty of other players I prefer to him. But look, it's up to you. I do prefer, if you want to go for someone in the same price bracket, I do prefer Hee-Chan. If you've got a little bit more money to spend, I do prefer the likes of Diaby and Misuma. And one more player that we need to talk about, who is Bryan Mbeumo, who I'm super tempted to put in great transfer. We've got a really nice fixture against West Ham up next, and I do expect him to be involved and to score on penalties as well. Decent open play at the moment. He's just in good form right now. He's a weird player that is just, no one can really figure out whether he's like a good pick or a bad pick. I think Brentford did have a little bit of a wobble, but when Brentford set up with the kind of 2 forwards and Mbeumo is playing much more further up the pitch, he's just absolutely insane, and I think that could happen in some of these fixtures coming up. It's difficult to say for sure where Mbeumo is going to be playing, but you always got penalties to fall back on if things don't go the way you want. And he's kind of like Salah in the way that he's super effective on those counter-attacks as well. He's always willing to take a shot from outside the box, even if he isn't always in the dangerous areas when Brentford are on the ball and passing it around. But I still think he's a good transfer. I think that he is quickly becoming my favourite of the kind of 6.5 bracket midfielders. I think I quite like him, I really do. But if you don't get him this week, maybe you can hold off a couple more game weeks, because after that, the fixtures look really good. Mbeumo is definitely a player I want to bring in soon. The one concern is, and this applies for Brentford and Man City players, is that they do have a blank game week kind of in a month or so, and that is going to cause some problems if you have too many Man City and Brentford players. So if you already have a couple of Man City players in your team, or, you know, already have a Man City and a Brentford player, just be sure you're not overloading on them too much. Otherwise, you could find yourself in a spot of bother. And we've got one more player to add in. And this is the most popular player, the most popular transfer of the week, isn't he? And I'm not keen. The most popular transfer of the whole week, and I'm not keen on him at all, really. And that's going to be Eddie Nketiah. I'm going to put him in the avoid category for this game week. I just don't see it. Yes, he scored a hat-trick against Sheffield United, but we know about Sheffield United tax at this point. We've seen so many players absolutely go there and score a buttload of points. It doesn't mean that's going to happen every week. Obviously, we don't know Gabriel Jesus' return schedule yet either. Last week, there were some rumours that he might be back in the squad against Newcastle. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. It looks like that situation has changed. But really, you've got 2 more weeks of Nketiah, and one of those weeks is against Newcastle. Now, next game week against Burnley as a 1-week punt, quite like him, don't mind him. But I feel like if you didn't go for Nketiah last week, you've missed out. You've missed your chance, because now we've gone from 2 fantastic fixtures and a horror fixture to now 1 horror fixture and 1 decent fixture. After that, I imagine he is going to be back on the bench, unfortunately, because Jesus will come back in. I don't think a hat-trick in a heavily rotated Arsenal team is kind of necessarily a sign that Nketiah is going to be the perfect pick going forward. I don't even know if he's necessarily nailed on in these next 2 fixtures, because we have still got the likes of Kai Havertz, Trossard, Martinelli, who can all play in the similar position. I think Nketiah probably is the most likely by far to play in that position, but I don't think he's 100% nailed on. And after that, we know he's not nailed on. So really, really difficult pick. I think maybe I'm being harsh putting him in a void, because if you look at a 2-game week point of view, maybe he could be okay. And if you're trying to pick someone to score against Newcastle, if you're really back Arsenal, could it be Nketiah? Yeah, I can see it. I can see it. So, yeah, he's a very super short-term punt. Maybe we need to move him up to optional. So let's throw Maddison up, bump Maddison up a level, and then we can throw in Nketiah right there. But am I convinced by this pick? No, I'm not. No, I really am not. And, you know, you're guaranteeing yourself that you need to use an additional transfer later down the line. Do you have an escape route? Do you have enough money in the bank? Is he a player who you're just going to bench this week against Newcastle anyway? In which case, why are you buying him? It's a really interesting one, and he's super popular, so there's obviously a lot of reasons that people are buying him that maybe I'm not seeing. I hope it's not just because, oh, player scores lots of points, must buy player, because I think there is more to it than this pick. But guys, let me know in the comments, why are you, if you are buying Nketiah, if you've already done it, because over like hundreds of thousands of people have already bought Nketiah in their team so soon after it happened. It sounds like a knee-jerk to me, but if it's not, let me know. I am willing to have my mind changed on this one. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. For this Newcastle fixture, I don't see it. Like we've seen Nketiah this season, yes, he'll get the occasional attacking return against a weaker team, but in general, he's had a lot of blanks as well. And against Newcastle, I would not bet for any striker to get like a decent amount of points against Newcastle, let alone, you know, a cheap backup forward, which unfortunately that is what Nketiah is at the moment. But look, that's where we're going to put him. If there's any players missing from this tier list, let me know. If I've got it wrong on any of these players, let me know as well. I'm always willing to listen to you guys. There's a lot of great FPL managers watching this video that probably know a little bit more than me, so always happy to hear your opinions and change my mind on these things. So good to be, it'll be good to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching this video. We will be doing a stream tonight. I'm not exactly sure what time. I don't know what time you guys want me to stream, but somewhere between 6 and 8 p.m. UK time. I imagine it'll be somewhere around there. Maybe we'll do a 7 p.m. stream. That's probably the time I'd like to stream, to be honest. So yeah, we'll see. But stream later. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you're liking, make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're checking out Fantasy Football Hub, link in the description for a free trial. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.